The controversy continues tonight over what could become the largest cattle operation in our state. We found a farmer in Clay County, a cattle farm that was feeding some 8,000 cattle at one time without a permit.
Well, the state now suing the Browning Cattle Company over polluted waterways as the owner works to get licensed. But as Fox 17 News' Kelly Avellino shows us, some neighbors say their community is being trampled.
They know the sound.
Hey, girl.
It's a supper time routine Trey Anderson and his family repeat daily since 1870.
And they're very cognizant of you. This cow here, I can walk back here rubber.
A mile up the road, as many as 8,000 cattle were being fed and shipped out west for about 2 years at the Browning Cattle Company without a permit.
What's the creek like now?
There's no crawfish, there's no tadpoles, there's no fish. The past couple years it smelled and looked like an open sewer.
TDEC issuing owner 23-year-old Trace Browning 5 violations for issues like not having a permit and pollution found on the site with runoff impacting streams.
Describe what you see left behind after a rain event.
Same every day.
Next door to Browning, Mary Deckard says 16 of her calves have died, the necropsy showing E. coli and shipping fever.
We've not had these problems for the 26 plus years until he moved in.
TDEC posting no swimming signs along Trace Creek in the county, finding dangerously high levels of E. coli. Just over a week after our visit, a park bordering the creek in TDEC's targeted section gets a $285,000 playground with state grant money and donations. The state attorney general's office slapping the Browning Cattle Company with a lawsuit last December, citing illegal discharges, illegal CAFO operations, and illegal land clearing.
Right now, Browning has scaled back to less than 1,000 cattle after a court injunction until he gets his permit. But I can tell you his application is asking for about 9,000 head of cattle on his property.
TDEC's most recent water samples from this past January show lower E. coli levels than last summer, but TDEC says still significantly above acceptable water quality standards established by the Tennessee Water Quality Control Act.
Under the regulations, samples.
Browning agricultural attorney Dave Moore disputes the pollution, particularly the impact of E. coli, whether it came from the Browning farm and how TDEC collected the samples. He says Browning has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to install some of the most stringent barriers in the Southeast, like miles of fencing and buffers.
The largest 48 acres of protective buffers in the state of Tennessee.
Moore tells me that Browning is now stopping all cattle feeding operations until TDEC approves the permit.
Browning has done everything that any government entity has asked for, and additionally, we have a consulting team that has some of the best and most advanced environmental consultants in the nation on these items.
But TDEC has repeatedly sent the application back for revisions for months. One state environmental specialist questioning in a May 3rd email if there's adequate storage on site to hold the amount of solid manure and liquid effluent.
If TDEC would approve our plan and allow us to put those basins in, then that's the fix.
But this is Tennessee and this is hill country, and the topography here does not allow for that type of operation.
About 24 supporters and family members of Browning met us when we interviewed those opposed to the operation. They say his farm provides a substantial boost for their local economy.
Well, it puts the bread on the table of all our local workers.
I asked state officials if a permit can be denied based on community outcry or that Browning had operated without a permit. A TDEC representative replying, permitting decisions are based on whether an application complies with applicable technical requirements.
Our farm lifestyle and our way of life is under siege here with this cattle operation and has been for 2 years.
Before any permits are granted, there has to be a public hearing, and I can tell you many of the residents we heard from today will be making their voices heard there. I can also tell you that some of the neighbors who are opposed to this cattle operation tell me they are considering taking their own legal action. In Clay County, I'm Kelly Avellino for Fox 17 News, your Code Red station.